I believe that the sun will come up tomorrow and the day is not going to stop, and so you need to get up. You need to get out of bed. Even though some days you want to pull the covers over your head and just stay there, you get up and you go, and I just find comfort with talking to people, but you got to take that step to get out of bed and move on. Get out of that rut you're in.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm your host, Iokeehu, and this is Hawaii Real. If you haven't yet, checked out I have a new website, hawaiirealpodcast.com. Again, that's hawaiirealpodcast.com. That's where you can go to check out all the short clip videos that I post, and you can also listen in to the audio versions of the podcast directly from the website. You can also catch these podcasts on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcasts. And today I have with me the owner of Santana Sports, Tasha Santana. Tasha, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me.
All the way up from Kapolei.
Yes.
How was the traffic this morning?
Wow. The usual. It's a tough thing to get from Kapolei all the way out here to the east side. Yeah. But wasn't too bad, actually.
Yeah, you guys actually beat me here.
Yeah, we hit the zipper lane.
Oh, no, there you go, the zipper lane. So, Santana Sports, what do you guys specialize in?
Mainly youth, but we do have sporting gear for adults too. So attire and sporting goods for a variety of sports, including volleyball, football, baseball, softball. We got some soccer, basketball, motocross, and the latest craze is our Hawaiian fight gear. So MMA, boxing gear, wrestling mats, heavy punching bags, boxing gloves, MMA gloves.
Now, is the MMA stuff, is that because of COVID and the pandemic and people wanting stuff for home?
Oh, yeah, I think so for sure. Everybody's setting up their home gyms. So just to stay active, being that they're not in their regular team sports. So we've been out there just, helping people along that way, finding the right gear, because sometimes it's hard to get it out here to Hawaii. A lot of times, even with any kind of sporting goods, I get people saying, oh, I see that cheaper online. Yeah, but if you try to bring it in and pay for shipping, it's another story. So, my job is to try and get everybody the best deals out there and, just keep our youth and our families out here in shape. Stay healthy.
You were telling me off camera before we started that one of the reasons you started this was because you couldn't find certain things out in Kapolei or out west side, right? You had to come into town for volleyball stuff?
Yes. Even when Sports Authority was here, my daughter, started off playing. She did a variety of sports, soccer. She did karate. She did football. She was the first female player for the Eva Beach Sabres youth football team.
Interesting. Good.
Out on the west side there. And then she got into volleyball. And with any sports, I noticed as a parent, and that's why I try to help the parents out there, because this is kind of where I come from. I was a single parent. I raised my nephew and my daughter. And so when they were trying to get involved in sports and I was a working parent, I would try my best to get them the best gear that I could afford. But, they want to be like the other kids too. So being a new parent at the sport, you kind of come in and you see what other kids are using, whether it be just basic black spandex shorts for volleyball or a pacifier mouthpiece for football. And you wonder to yourself like, oh, where can you get that? And maybe you ask some of the other parents, oh, yeah, where'd you get that? And it's like, oh, my cousin sent it from the mainland. Or they say, oh, from the Navy Exchange, right? Where like most of us local people probably don't have access to. So I started doing some research. I looked online. I found some basics that I brought in for my kids. And then I started looking further, and I would bring in a little bit more because, again, with shipping, you buy more and you can get the same amount for the same amount of shipping. You buy one shorts, you pay $30 shipping. You buy 5 shorts, you pay $30 shipping. So I would bring in more and then just sell to the other parents, just at cost. And then I realized there really was a need for it out there, and other parents were very appreciative of just having it on hand. After work, they're rushing their kids to sports practice, and just to have it handy right there, and I saw that there really was a need. So slowly started bringing in more things and building from there. Made all these great relationships with the vendors, and yeah, it just took off from there.
That's super impressive that you took that on and did that, because you're not the only parent that had encountered that situation with not having the gear and having to search online for the gear. But you're one of the few that actually put it together and it's like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna start bringing in more stuff and start selling the stuff.
Yeah,
and turn it into a business.
I have a lot of people that, especially when I first started, you hear things like, oh, she only buys and sells stuff, or you hear a lot of people will say, and I think this goes for any business, like, hey, me and my buddy thought of the same thing. We were going to do that too. Mm-hmm. But to take that extra step, you kind of, and I'm not much of a risk taker usually. So I put myself out there really doing something that I wasn't comfortable with, and I worked, nonprofit, in an organization for almost 17 years. I got my paycheck every 2 weeks. And then when I quit that, I went to another job where I got a paycheck every week. And to do something else outside of that, not knowing if, hey, you might not get a paycheck the next week, you might get a big paycheck that week. It really, you take that risk. But when I saw that it started catching on, and people, again, just people coming in and being appreciative and saying, oh, I'm so glad you're here, and then running into all these families that I've worked with from over 20 years ago. I worked in childcare, so sometimes I have customers come in and they're like, hi, Miss Tasha. And I know if they call me Miss Tasha, it's from like 20 years ago. And they're coming in with kids of their own. And I'm like, whoa, I'm old. Oh, no. But it's so great to see them coming in with their own kids and, taking that extra step, because to put kids into sports is a commitment. And to see them, doing that, that they're doing good, as a parent. But yeah, so.
Yeah, it's one of the things as a parent, like getting your child into sports, like you said, that shows a whole another aspect of responsibility as a parent, because there's a whole lot more that goes into having your kid in sports. You got to get them from school to practice, and you got to stay there at practice. You got to make sure they have the gear. You got to make sure they have this, they have that. You got to pay for pictures. Mm-hmm. There's a whole thing that goes into it.
Go home, do homework still,
And some parents end up being coaches.
Yeah. If you get pulled into that, and that's another thing.
I know nothing about the sport. I know, but we need coaches. I know not. Okay, fine.
I see coaches come in and buy things for their teams. And, we have like agility ladders, resistance bands, things like that, where they can use, as conditioning for their kids out on the fields. And when they come in, I have an appreciation for each and every one of them, because I see them coming in from work. I see them trying to hustle down to the shop to buy things out of their own pocket for, these kids that aren't necessarily their own, biological kids, but they take on this responsibility of not only teaching kids the sport, but it's so much more. They teach them teamwork. They teach them to be resilient, they have a big job out there as coaches, and people should really appreciate them out there.
So it sounds like having that storefront is just a part or a cog in the big machine of building the character of kids.
Right? Oh yeah.
You're not just selling stuff.
Yeah.
No, you're actually part of this whole, I don't know how to explain it, this whole culture of raising children to be better human beings.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like, like for myself, my personal place that I'm in right now, I feel like everything's kind of come full circle for me. Like I said, I've worked in nonprofit, primarily childcare, for over 16 and a half years. And then I went and worked. And at that time when I was working for that organization, I was able to get my bachelor's and my master's degree. So I went and I got my bachelor's in human services, and then my master's in business administration, which I don't know, I didn't know what I was going to do with it.
Oh, that's super impressive that you were able to do that, though.
Yeah. And I'm like, hey, okay, we got, the family part down and, the human services part. And, I'm going to take a stretch and I'm going to go for business administration just in case in the future I want to do something down that line. And sure enough, after that, I went to work for a painting company, right? And I was the office manager there and kind of pretty much did everything at that small company. And everything, again, I learned a lot about running a business at that time because I had to do all the different areas, HR, payroll, hiring, just the ins and out of every day, answering the telephones, so then the sporting goods business kind of came into play. And I had my son, so it kind of worked out where I could bring him along, and everybody knows him, Aiden Boy at the shop. He's like the best greeter, out there, always telling customers to come back again, giving them hugs. He struggles right now because he can't give hugs with, COVID. But it all, and then my people that I worked with or families that I worked with prior are coming back and now buying sporting goods, so, and again, not only youth, so we have motocross and then the boxing and stuff. And I see, I have, men coming in, women coming in. And it's funny, a lot of times we'll get dads in there and they'll look around and they look like a kid in a candy store. And they're like, hey, I'm going to buy this ball. And hey, I'm going to buy, these hex rings, and I'm going to bring my son out there or my daughter out there, and they're going to be running in the park, right? They get all, I see their faces light up. And
it's like they come in to buy a mouth guard and they end up leaving with like $100 worth of stuff.
Exactly. Sometimes $800. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I've been that dad.
So I mean, I just love seeing the smiles on people's faces, and seeing that mom who was me, coming in and getting everything that they need, at a reasonable price. So I try to buy. I mean, I sell things, and honestly, I sell things that I would only buy for my child. So comfort, the price again, because these kids grow like crazy. I kind of will not allow a kid to buy a shoe that seems too tight for them. I'll be like, no, you know what? Maybe you guys can come back in 2 days and I'll get you a bigger size, so right. Because I'm just thinking as a mom, and that's where I'm coming from. So yeah, I mean, I love it. I really do.
So for everybody listening, where can they find this shop?
So it's Hawaii Self-Storage Kapolei West, which is basically Cambo Industrial, right behind Costco. And, it's easy off and on the freeway, right across Hardware Hawaii and near the fire station. So I even got the firemen coming from across the street, buying gloves, buying punching bags. And now they came back just recently for headgear. So I think they're getting more serious. Sparring out there.
The firemen are supposed to be doing that. You must be throwing some people under the bus here.
At home.
No. Right. We're doing this for home. That's hilarious. How is it we're having a business out of a storage place? Because I know that was like a big thing coming out maybe 5-10 years ago.
Yes. So, I had a bunch of friends that went through that place doing businesses out of there. Right now, I know there's like a remote control car place. I see all the dads after work in Cambo Industrial going out there and probably spending their whole paycheck before they get home. There's a tire shop I saw open up. There's a couple like CrossFit type of gyms out there. Sublimated printing, t-shirt printing.
So there's a lot of businesses running.
Yes, yeah.
Interesting.
But it works for me because I have a space out there where I even have my kids and even a couple other friends that come out, and the kids do conditioning out there right in front of our shop. And it's enclosed. So right now, I've looked into storefronts. They cost a lot more. Yep. But as far as my family, it works perfect for me right now. My son can go ride his little Strider bike outside, and Yeah, I mean, it's great that I can do that and also, make some money at the same time,
Yeah.
spend time with my kids and do that.
Do you guys have regular business hours, or is it?
Yeah. So normally, I'd be open Monday through Friday, usually in the afternoon. So 2 to 5, something like that, because normally it's the youth we're servicing. So then they like to try on, whatever it is they're buying. So parents will rush them from school to the shop and then out to their practices. But it's pretty flex. Right now it's by appointment only because of COVID. Sports aren't in full effect, so it doesn't, make sense for me to be there full hours when football, volleyball, those team sports aren't in session.
Very cool. What's the future of Santana Sports for you? Where are you taking
You know
this?
what? I thought about it from the get-go, because when I first opened, there was a couple other shops that opened, as well as a rumor, or I don't know if it's a rumor, that Dick's Sporting Goods was going to come down.
I heard that a while ago.
Yeah. So it was right after I opened over 3 years ago. And I told myself, hey, even when Sports Authority was open, I couldn't find my basics for my kids there. Mm-hmm. And there was no one there at Sports Authority that would say, hey, you know what? These are the stretchy ones. Kids like to wear this. It's just kind of grab and go. And you buy things that I know all the parents out there can relate. You buy your kids football gloves or whatever it might be, and then you go into their room and it's sitting there with the tag still on, right? So, you buy all this stuff from those big stores and they don't use it. So I want to say that right now I feel there is a need for me to be out there, and I'll just, keep going as long as business is there. Yeah, and change up as needed, of course.
Okay, so you have an Instagram
yes
account, right?
Yeah, Sports Santana.
Sports Santana.
I don't know why I couldn't make it Santana Sports.
Santana is kind of a popular name, especially in the mainland. I can imagine somebody else has that out there.
Yeah.
But so Sports Santana.
Yes.
And I saw on your Instagram, maybe a week ago or so, like you posted a picture of yourself shooting or like having a pistol.
Yes.
What are your views on, and I kind of wanted to touch on this because, in popular media, firearm ownership is kind of hit or miss with some people. Some people really hate guns. Some people really love guns. But then I think there's like a vast majority of people that's just like, no, I should be allowed to have a gun, and this is why.
Yeah, for sure.
So what's your story on why you'd want to have a firearm?
I'm kind of in the middle there. So, shooting has been a hobby for me. Yeah. So I would just go out and kind of, I would rent, and use whatever they have at like X-Ring in Waipahu, and just for fun, and I'm like someone who, if I play a video game, I don't play video games anymore, but if I play a video game, I want to win, right? So when I'm shooting out there, I'm just going, and you're just going for your personal best. There's days you're on, there's days you're off, and that was just something I could do on my own. Go out there and shoot and, target shoot.
Right. So that was a fun thing for you to do.
Yes.
Target shoot.
Yes. So then I thought, hey, I'm renting, and I thought about getting my own firearm. And I could, because I actually have the qualifications with my hunter's ed license from back in 1996, when I don't know why I went and got it. I went with a bunch of friends, but that's one of the qualifications, to either have that or like take a basic safety course.
So just with a bunch of friends, you're just like, hey, let's go get take the hunting course.
Yeah. And I kept the card. I found it surprisingly in like a shoebox. And so, I thought about it, and but, and I'm just speaking, from my personal view. And I know, it can be a touchy subject, firearms, having firearms, in your home. But I found myself, recently, I separated from my husband, and it was an abusive situation. That I didn't say much about. But, with anything, and I try to teach my kids, like, you can't control what's around you. You can't control what other people do. So what can you do about it? And, it might be something small, it might be something big, and I try to, sometimes I find myself when I'm in situations like, hey, like I feel overwhelmed that, there's a situation. I mean, even with COVID, like, hey, what am I going to do? I'm not making money, and you just feel like your world is caving in. And you think to yourself, I got to talk to myself and say, hey, you know what, shake it off. Like, once I start feeling that way and say, hey, what can I do about it? And, it's taken me up to this point in my life to really be able to come to that point where I can do that and tell myself that, and believe that there is something that I can do and not feel powerless. So there was a situation where, I do, where my ex-husband came, and he was at the house, and my kids were terrified. I was terrified. And we were in a position where, hey, I can't take on this person who's 2 times my size, and I really did feel powerless, looking at my kids crying and shaking and looking at me for guidance. And, it does take the police some time to get there, wherever you might be, and they can't just fly there. There's traffic, there's different situations. So after that time of dealing with that and thinking about my kids, and just how terrified they were and how terrified I was, what could I have done in that situation? And, it was a no-brainer for me. Like, I need to be able to defend myself and to defend my kids. If there comes a time where a stranger or, we come into a situation where it's unsafe. And I can tell you, during those months, I had lived where if I hear a little, I hear somebody walking outside, or I hear, a little noise, I'd be up in the middle of the night. And I'd be, shaking, not knowing what is that outside, not knowing, what's going to happen next. And just having a firearm, which I did purchase, and get registered, I feel safer. I feel like I can protect my kids and myself. Yeah, if ever come to that, which we hope not. Yeah, so not only, is it now a hobby, but for me, it's, something that gives me that sense of security. Yeah, and that's coming from, a single mom. Yeah, and sometimes it's sad to think that it's come to that, but if you were in a situation where I was, and you felt that fear, for those that that might not consider having a firearm, after that experience, I felt like that's something that I could do for myself, for my kids, for my family, for my house.
Yeah, because firearms are the great equalizer, right?
Yes.
And you hear, there's a podcaster, Jocko Willink, who's a former Navy SEAL, and he's talked about this and touched on this also. But people have asked him, what is the best self-defense you can use against someone? And hands down, it doesn't matter if they know jiu-jitsu, know karate, it doesn't matter what martial arts they've trained, it doesn't matter how big they are, how strong they are, how fast they are. The person with the gun has the advantage over that person, no matter what training they have. Yeah. It's the greatest equalizer. A small 4-foot woman, 4-foot tall woman with a gun is more powerful than, a Navy SEAL without one.
Yes. Yeah. And for sure, Hawaii has all the checks in place, and it seems like a long process, especially now, to try to get an appointment for your registration, for your application, for your permit, and then to get another appointment, to get your firearm registered. But those checks, I believe, are in place for a reason. And again, it's safety. They do the background checks. They make sure how to handle the firearms. So all of those things, I believe, are necessary for someone to own a firearm.
Yeah, I think Hawaii's got some really good gun control laws as far as purchasing, getting the checks done, the background checks done, and getting the permit. And there's a time period after you get the permit from which you can buy a handgun.
Yes.
Right? It's only a couple weeks or so.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then a rifle or a long gun is like a year. You have a year to buy a gun. And then you have to go through the process again after that.
Yeah.
So I think, the checks and balances here locally in our state, they're pretty good. I don't know how you can get them any better. There are states out there that you can go to Walmart and just pick up a gun, right?
Yeah.
And do the background checks and everything there and not have to register it.
Yeah.
There are states like that. I'm not condoning that.
Yeah.
But, I think as far as the checks and balances are there and they're done correctly, and people should be allowed to legally own firearms for their own protection,
Yes, I agree.
Gun rights, in my opinion, are women's rights.
Mm-hmm.
Women's right to protect themselves.
Yeah. I feel the same way. And now I don't have to pay a rental fee when I go to the range.
Oh, you just
because I got my own gun. Save some money.
But now it's like ammo is hard to come by now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's like gold. I mean, there's like market prices out there. What I would spend $30 on is now $50.
Why is that? Do you know?
I don't know. And I didn't do the research, but I'm just guessing that, I mean, even like the firearms themselves, the guns themselves, there's a shortage. So I just think people are out there, just again, doing, finding ways to protect themselves if needed. And, practicing, of course, I feel like me going to the range and practicing is part of my responsibility of owning a firearm.
Sure.
So that I know that I'm how to use it. I'm comfortable with using it. So, it's hard to find ammo nowadays. Hopefully they increase the supply.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing. I don't know if manufacturing has been stifled during the pandemic or if we were importing materials from other countries that went into the production of firearms and ammunition. I don't know. Yeah. But ammo's hard to find. That's a big complaint I've heard.
Yeah, I know. When I saw the listing out there and it's like market prices, I'm like thinking of like fish or gold or, it's like, wow.
Nope, it's 9mm and 45. So, okay.
Yeah.
What kind of firearm do you have?
I have a Glock 9mm with a bronze slide.
Oh,
made it kind of pretty.
Pretty.
Yeah.
Another thing about firearms so I worked in the evidence room for a while and we had to destroy a lot of firearms. It was kind of sad sometimes to destroy some of these, especially old firearms, World War II type things. Firearms are, in my opinion, they're like jewelry in terms of value. They can retain their value over long periods of time, right? You buy a firearm for, $700. In 10 years, it might be worth $900 or $1,500.
Yeah.
So they don't degrade in value as long as their condition is kept.
Take care of them, clean them. Of course, keep them in a safe place.
Right. My point on that is there's so many people that are like, they throw away the guns. They turn them in for destruction. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
You could sell these. Yeah. There's so much money.
Yeah, for sure.
If it's like jewelry. It's like someone getting rid of jewelry and just saying, oh, just
throw it away.
All this down.
Yeah.
I don't care. And I don't want any of it. It's like, geez, weird throwing away money. But people are afraid of guns. I don't know why they're afraid of guns.
Sometimes when I put my post out there, again, because that's my personal hobby, is target shooting. I'll have a bunch of my girlfriends, right? And they're like, hey, take me along with you. I've dented that pool of people just a little bit, just because of time's sake. But I'd love to do that. And, just to let them experience shooting a gun, and I probably have 20 people out there that I kind of said, you can, I'll catch you, sometime soon. So I'm working on it. But I just love, taking people out there and being able to share with them and experience something like that.
Have you experienced like changing someone's mind about their preconceptions of firearms?
I haven't. Usually the ones that, are game to do it are just kind of like gung ho.
Okay.
But I think for themselves, just shooting a gun, I just see them kind of light up like, wow, I did it.
It's so powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I kind of reach out to the girls, these mommies, or, they, people that I've worked with in the past, and they're like, hey, if Tasha can do it, I can do it too, so yeah, I'm more than happy to bring someone along.
Yeah. My opinion is that it only benefits people to learn how to use guns and go try it. You don't have to own one. But
yes.
If you're afraid of them, face the fear and figure out why you're afraid of them.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's a mechanical piece of metal.
Yes.
Like that you're afraid of a mechanical piece of metal.
Yeah.
I think knives kill more people than guns, but you're not afraid of your kitchen knife.
Yeah.
But like from domestic violence and stuff like that, there's a whole heck of a lot of knife violence throughout the country.
Yes.
You just don't hear about that because it doesn't make the mainstream news.
Yeah.
Knives are dangerous.
Yeah.
But we're not afraid of knives.
Yeah,
we learn how to use knives, right? From young kid age when we're going through, learning how to cook and everything.
Yeah. And again, it's the education of learning how to take care of a firearm, just how to put it down, of course, never point it at anyone, just like your Nerf guns, back in the day.
There are so many rules regarding it.
But yeah. So, don't keep it loaded. I mean, basic stuff, but it takes practice. And then, the more you practice, it becomes routine. You clear the chamber, whatever it might be, just things like that. That becomes, second nature when you're shooting. But again, it's practice and being comfortable with it.
And respecting it.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah. Because when you stop having respect for it, then you start making mistakes. And that's when you end up with holes in the ceiling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or in the car. There was one.
Oh, no.
I don't know if I can drop that story. There was a person that discharged a firearm in his car.
Oh, gosh.
Lodged the bullet inside the center console. That's as much detail as I can get into.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it's fun. It's like, for me, sometimes I'm just in the area and I'll stop in and, shoot 50 rounds, whatever, and then I'm out, and I got kind of my fix for that week, hopefully.
Any plans for Santana Sports to get into like the marketing, not necessarily firearms themselves, but like there's a whole economy behind that. The gloves, the tack pants.
Yeah. I slowly started looking into it. A funny story. I went ahead and I don't know if you guys get those Facebook like promotions. And so there was like this really cute tactical pants, kind of cargo looking pants, but it was like leggings, super comfortable looking, lifted your booty, this and that, right? And I ordered it. And usually when you order those things, sometimes they come from other countries. So I ordered maybe like one size bigger, right? Because sometimes they come like too small. And even the size bigger when it came didn't quite look like that picture in the ad. So I would say, I would stay away from those ads on your Facebook sometimes.
Yeah, they're always coming from like direct from China or Indonesia or
like
something.
It didn't look like that girl in the picture.
And they're sized for like Chinese size or, whatever country they're coming from.
So definitely maybe. I mean, if I could find something that's comfortable like that, some kind of clothing line that, was kind of tactical looking, then hey, I might bring it in, if it's comfortable. Yeah, for all the mamas out there.
Yeah. 511, right? The brand 511.
Yes. Yeah.
I didn't know that 511 stems from rock climbers.
Oh.
And that's like a gauge for the difficulty of the mountain whatever.
Oh, wow.
Because they have like a number gauge for the difficulty of the climb. So 511 is supposed to be like a really difficult type of climb. And that's where they started branding in all of these cargo pants. But then like tactical guys started buying them and it became a tactical company from sports.
I mean, it's all about comfort. Even again, at my shop, I always look for comfort first off with shoes, like football cleats I'll bring in, and I'll always bring in like the wide size, because that'll fit most of our Polynesians out here, I'm not going to bring in the narrow stuff. So.
All right, Tasha. So what would you say, I like to ask this of my guests, your life philosophy. We talked about a little bit off camera about resiliency, but what is your life philosophy?
Yeah, I think I think just knowing that whatever life throws at you, that the sun will come up tomorrow. Yeah, and that there are better days ahead. And I think it's so important. Like I try to teach my kids too. I haven't always made the best decisions as a parent, and sometimes I feel bad, like as a parent. And being a single parent, you kind of take that weight on double. Like anytime something goes wrong, you kind of, you take it on double because it's only you to blame, so to speak. So I had to turn my thinking around, and I have all kinds of good friends out there, and they'll share with me bits and pieces of their inspirations. And I remember one uncle of mine is just sharing that just what you're doing in your life, even though you guys go through bad situations, because I felt like I wasn't being a good example, being in an abusive relationship and my kids seeing things. But he reminded me that them seeing me bounce back and being able to carry on with, your daily responsibilities, it is being a good example. Because in life, I'm not always going to be there for my kids. And being able to know that whatever brings them down, and sometimes it's out of your control, that they'll be able to bounce back from that. And I mean, it's like we all kind of dealt with that with COVID, businesses shutting down, maybe not being able, even if you work for another business, your hours being cut back, and saying, hey, okay, what can I do? And just so many months ago I said, hey, I'm not even bringing in a tenth of my income of what I usually do in the sports shop. Of course, we were shut down, but then we could reopen, but parks are closed. You can't do team sports. So it's still, I'm not, reaching my regular customer base. And I said, hey, how am I going to buy milk for my son the next day? He drinks like half a gallon a day. And I said, okay, you know what? Today I'm going to sit here and I'm just going to, just think about it, and be depressed if I need to. But tomorrow, what am I going to do? And I took those steps, whether it be applying for assistance, applying for grants, thinking of changing up what I'm advertising at my sporting goods shop. Just doing something, knowing that every day you take a step to better yourself, or take a step in maybe it's a different direction, but doing something to turn things around, just that resiliency. And, I've had people ask me when I've had hard times in life, sometimes they say, Tasha, how do you do it? And I'm like, you know what? 99.9%, I believe that the sun will come up tomorrow and the day is not going to stop, and so you need to get up. You need to get out of bed. Even though some days you want to pull the covers over your head and just stay there, you get up and you go, and I just find comfort with talking to people, but you got to take that step to get out of bed and move on. Get out of that rut you're in, whatever it might be. And you can apply it to, if somebody bashes your business, or, says something like, hey, yeah, oh, Tasha, she only buys and sells stuff. But like, hey, you know what? Yeah, that is what I do, but, and I'm going to keep doing it. And it kind of pushes me to even do more of it and do it better.
Wait, people bash you for buying and selling stuff?
No, I've heard that. I've heard that in the past.
That's store ownership. That's the business. That's how it works.
Yeah. But I guess, in their minds, they could do it too,
They could.
Yeah, they could,
But they didn't.
So, yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I've had people, like, even with the podcast, like, say, oh, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? It's like,
yeah.
You got your own show, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, no.
Exactly.
Well, stop.
Yeah.
You can do it.
Everybody, and I think a lot of business owners out there can relate. Or say, I mean, there's always people that can give suggestions. And I'm always more than open to hearing the suggestions, because sometimes I take it and I run with it.
Yeah, there's a difference between suggestions and criticisms and stuff like that versus like just bashing or trolling on someone. Yeah.
Yeah. But, I take that energy, flip it around, and, just do your thing. Yeah. And again, I want to pass it down to the kids, even kids out on the field when they're doing sports, sometimes, like I said, when I go target shooting, today is just not my day. I'm all over the place, but, next time I come back, hey, maybe I'm right on it, but keep going, don't give up, and when people say, it's going to get better, it really does. It really does.
It's almost interesting to have that sports analogy in people's lives where they're training their kids and pushing their kids, or maybe they themselves have gone through sports throughout life and they've overcome all of these hurdles through sports. Mm-hmm. But then when it comes to life and, maybe in businesses, they're not taking those that same mentality into the business life.
Yeah.
Where they had that in sports. They easily do that in sports, easily overcome failures in sports and take risks in sports and try something new in sports.
Oh, yeah.
Not doing that in life. It's like, why?
And that's why, like, coaches that are out there, like we said earlier, them teaching those things out on the field or out on the court, if a lot of them they take that extra step and say, hey, apply it to your life. Mm-hmm. And if kids can remember that from a young age, when they're in their early 20s, when they're in their 30s, when they're like me, 40s, they'll remember. And, it does make a difference. Yeah. When you have that little voice in your head, talking to you, and it's a positive one.
Especially when you've been on a sports team where, like, during practices, the coaches have gotten the players to do more than the players themselves thought they could have done.
Oh, yeah.
That translates into life. Say, I've been punished and beat down so much during these football practices, but I did it and I overcame that. Mm-hmm. I can continue to do that, in life too. Like,
and sometimes it's like, kids, they're shy, in the classroom. That's just not their thing. They struggle. And then you see them out on the court or out on the field. My daughter is one of them, and she amazes me. I see her just take leadership out on the basketball court. She's vicious. She's, just aggressive. And, she's like rallying up her team. And I'm like, hey, that's my daughter. I taught her everything she knows, but in the classroom, she's a little more timid. And I just look at her and I hope that, she can take that attitude, that positive attitude that she has out there on the court or on the field and apply it in life, when I'm not there, when she has troubles.
That's a hard thing to make. I've seen that too. And I think I was one of them where, like, sports I was naturally good at and just loved to do it. Mm-hmm. In the classroom, as my mom can probably attest, I was terrible. I hated homework and I wasn't the best student,
Yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't put two and two together.
Everybody has their thing, and that's what makes our world go round. Is everybody's talented in different ways.
Yeah. But I like your point based on resiliency that you talked about earlier, where if you're down on something or something gets you down, hey, take that day to just mull it over, feel depressed about it, and then get to work.
Yeah.
Like that's huge. Mm-hmm. Don't keep being depressed and keep being down. Mm-hmm. At some point you got to say, okay, I'm going to cry about it for this amount of time, and then I'm going to get to work solving it or making my life better. Yeah.
Sometimes, certain circumstances might take more than a day, but don't stay there. Yeah. Get out, get going, and, better days ahead.
Better days ahead. 2021 is coming around.
Yeah.
Let's get rid of 2020. Just sweep it under the rug.
It just went.
Yeah. Oh my God. So, has COVID have you started seeing the business come back with the releases of the mayor's restrictions and stuff like that?
Yeah, definitely. If parks open, then yeah. Even if it's small groups, people will come out and buy things. I think initially people were reluctant to start up their own home gyms. But as the months went on, they're like, hey, you know what? This is where it's at. This is what we need to do. I still tell myself that it may not go back to exactly what it was before. And I'm one that, I worked at one place for almost 17 years. I lived in the same house since I was a teenager, renting out at that place. And I'm like, I'm not that risk taker, like I said. But, I tell myself every day, hey, I can't run, my business wasn't, I was in business for over 3 years now. So I kind of got that groove going and then it stopped. And now I have to tell myself, it may not go back to the same thing, but I'm like, hey, I got all this data. I know what works. I know, but I got to tell myself, talking to Tasha again in my head, tell myself that things have to change, whatever it might be, whether it be the products or getting more of my stuff online or, whatever it might be. I got to step outside that box again.
Right. So you're adaptable to changing.
I try to be.
You try to be.
I try my best.
Tell yourself, I got to be adaptable.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. Well, it's like with the podcast and changing the lights,
Yeah.
Like even when that guy in the last episode was here changing the lights, he was surprised a little bit that I was so willing to let him just change stuff.
Yeah.
He's like, usually people don't let me they're not
touch their things.
Yeah, they don't want me to touch their things and change stuff. I'm like, nope, you're the expert, man.
Yeah, go for it. Have at it.
Because one of two things are going to happen. I'm going to love it. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to be very thankful to. Number two, I'm going to hate it. I'm just going to put it back to how it was before. Yeah. And I'm at no loss. Yeah. Right. So.
Yeah. So always be open for that change.
Always be open for that change.
Yeah. Yep. Change is hard, but much needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I keep throwing lacrosse at people.
Yeah. Lacrosse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been approached several times at, just out on the leeward side. I've seen people trying to push it out there, lacrosse.
Yes, the league is trying to expand out that way. It's a good sport to have in Hawaii. Yeah. I don't know why it hasn't taken hold and taken foot here, but oh my God, it's fun.
Yeah. I meet the guys out at, sometimes I go to the meetings for the Ewa Beach Sabres trying to get some practice space out there. Everybody's looking for practice space. So we kind of got to share. Yeah. Got to share the fields.
It's definitely the hard part, especially with lacrosse, because it kind of overlaps soccer.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't overlap football.
Actually, football is like year round now.
It is?
Yeah.
Geez.
Yeah. A lot of the sports have gone year round, which makes it even more challenging for park space.
Why I play hockey? Year round, in a court, in a rink where we don't have to worry about that
AC?
kind of stuff. Yes. You've been inside, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice AC out there in Kapolei. Yeah. I love it. It's beautiful.
They even started doing parties out there. So it was a second place if you didn't want to go out to Ice Palace. Yeah. Could have a party out there at Kiha.
Yeah, they started doing open skating and stuff with the music and having games and stuff.
People would wear their neon clothes.
Yes.
Use their old school roller skates.
Fun times. Yeah, I brought my kids out there a couple of times, and before that, they didn't like skating because before that, it was whenever I brought them to go skate, it was kind of like in the hockey realm. Like, hey, here's a stick, here's the helmet,
get going,
the puck, and at the same time skate.
Yeah.
Whereas now with the parties, or actually before COVID, with the parties and stuff, they just could skate and they loved it.
Have fun to the music. To the point where they wanted their own skates.
Yeah. Electric slide.
Yeah.
They wanted their own skates.
I mean, whatever, it's anybody's choice. Like I started off with, okay, football is important. And then, cause my kids played it, and then volleyball was important. Then having the sports shop, I realized that whatever sport that family is into, or that player is into, that kid is into, that's important to them. And whatever it might be, they're staying active, they're staying fit, they're staying healthy, so I've gained that respect for all the sports. I think more respect than I've had before. Yeah.
All right. Tasha, it's been good having you on. Any last words of wisdom for everybody?
Thanks for having me. Just keep going. Better days ahead.
Keep going. Better days ahead. That's good.
And call me up if you need any sporting goods.
Sporting goods. Santana Sports and Kapolei, everybody.
All right.
Oh, what's your Instagram again?
Sports Santana.
Sports Santana.
And I have a Facebook page, Santana Sports.
Okay.
Yeah.
Santana Sports on Facebook. Sports Santana on Instagram.
Yes.
All right. Tasha, again, thank you so much for coming on.
Much mahalo.
All right. And as always, stay happy, Hawaii. Bigger shakas. You got to get the big shot.
This one.